Hey everybody, this is Midnight Update, a games edition. I'm Seamus Byrne. Welcome to Thursday, 2nd of July. While I'm having a bit of a quiet patch, plotting and scheming for the future, I thought I'd play some catch up on some of the great E3 interviews that I picked up. Tonight, a couple of interviews that show some particularly outstanding titles that are heading to the Wii later in the year. While at first glance they may not make it obvious, I think both have a lot of potential to find some hardcore fans. First up, I'll look at Tatsunoko vs Capcom, which was just named Best Fighting Game at this year's E3, followed by a bit of Marvel Superheroes Squad. So here at Capcom, having a quick chat about Tatsunoko vs Capcom. I know I'm the kind of guy who wasn't quite sure what Tatsunoko actually was referring to, but then I started to realize what we're actually talking about. So having a quick chat with Chris Kramer from Capcom, and you're going to tell us a little bit about the characters that people are actually going to realize that they know and are probably going to be desperate to play.
Yeah, right off the bat, a lot of people are going to recognize the GeForce characters, the Gatchaman characters. Everyone remembers, I'm sure, Battle of the Planets from when they were growing up. You know, the bird superhero team. Yeah. So that's the Gatchaman series is what they were called in Japan. Yeah. They're probably Tatsunoko's maybe some of their most recognizable characters outside of Japan. But the company, Tatsunoko itself, the best way to think of them is the Japanese version of Hanna-Barbera. Yeah. You know, they've been producing cartoons for over 60 years. They've done things like the original Astro Boy cartoons, Macross, which is also known as Robotech, Speed Racer, Gatchaman. So like a huge number of characters, literally from the 60s all the way up to current day. So in Japan, these characters are like incredibly well known, like loved. Outside of the US, a little less well known, but what we're doing is we're showing the game off to people, and people are like, the game is so awesome that it doesn't really matter that they may not be familiar with Yatterman or Ipatsuman or Tekman or some of these guys. What they do is they see this game, it's like incredibly colorful, it's a lot of fun to play, it's really deep, and you can just get in and get it right away. So the kind of the benefit is that they're like, okay, I recognize like Ryu and Chun-Li from Street Fighter, right? Maybe I don't know who this Ken the Eagle is, but I like the cut of his jib. You know, they get in there and they start playing around, they're like, this guy's awesome, I want to know more about this. They learn about Battle of the Planets or Gatchaman, and same thing. So we're kind of helping introduce North American and European gamers to like this whole very rich animated history from Japan.
And I mean, from what I've seen as well, I mean, these characters are have also been given some of the coolest ultras that I've seen as well.
Yeah, the ultras are really amazing. That's kind of the depth with the characters is when you dig in and you learn about these characters, you're like, why does Yatterman ride on a giant dog and smash people? Or why does this dog set people on fire? It's like, well, it turns out that Yatterman is sort of like a slacker inventor, and one of his first big projects was a rescue dog, a giant 20-foot robotic dog that could shoot fire and save people from disaster. So there's things you learn in there, like Ken the Eagle, like his Ultra. CT summons the Fiery Phoenix ship from GeForce. You know, at the end of every episode of GeForce, they'd have to defeat the monster by turning into the Fiery Phoenix. So that's his Ultra. He brings the Phoenix in and just bakes the other player. So there's depth and there's stuff you learn about all these characters, even just from their Ultras.
Yeah, cool. And so as you're saying, I guess in a lot of ways, this is potentially going to start selling a lot more DVDs of these old cartoons in the West as well.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, one of the coolest things I saw on YouTube is just some random guy out there when Tatsunoko vs Capcom was first announced in Japan, compiled a YouTube clip that's 4 minutes long. That's like the opening of, I think, like 8 or 9 of the different animated series. Yeah, right. So it's all this original stuff. So you're watching these like, just crazy animated openings from these, anime shows from like the late 60s, early 70s. So it's like this amazing like Japanese funk music and just like very stylized art. It's awesome, and it really kind of gives you the sense it's like there's this whole thing happening here. Like, in North America, everybody recognizes the Marvel characters from Marvel vs. Capcom. Yeah. In Japan, Japanese players, they know Spider-Man or Iron Man or Hulk, but like they don't know who Blackheart is or Cable, or when you start to dig into some of the more kind of obscure Marvel characters. Yeah. Those games do well there because the players recognize some of the characters and really love the game. Yeah. So we're hoping to kind of like flip that on our side and bring in North America and Europe and even down on your side of the world and get people involved in the game and you know, help them to love the characters that way.
And as you say as well, there's a real style to these characters. It's not, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously the rest of Capcom universe has, but they've got something of their own as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's like when you get down to the core, we've been making Street Fighter games for 25 years now. You recognize Ryu. You're like, oh, he's the karate guy in the white gi. It doesn't really matter that you know his whole backstory about his master getting killed and his vendetta against Sagat. That's great if you know that, but ultimately, like, I like to Dragon Punch. I like to Fireball. So it's the same thing. Like, you're like, hey, look, check it out. There's Gold Lighton. He's a giant robot who, you know, it's a gold lighter that turns into a 50-foot tall robot. That's rad.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's just a lot of fun stuff in the game.
So this is Marvel Superhero Squad, and yeah, you know, tell us a bit about what the game's all about.
Well, basically it's based off the toy line and the TV show that's coming out, and it features a lot of Marvel characters, not just the ones from the show, but a lot of other guys as well. And it's almost like a lost episode from the series. We kind of got it written by one of the show's writers. Basic premise of the show is the Infinity Sword got shattered into these Infinity Shards. And then each Infinity Shard kind of imbues the heroes with powers or takes away their powers. So kind of in this game, like, there's 6 different storylines, and each hero kind of chases after a different shard, and then they kind of all combine together at the end. So we've got this mode that you're seeing now, which is like the main adventure mode, but we've also got a more Smash Brothers, Power Stone-esque like brawler mode as well. Yeah, so in this one you kind of play mostly as the heroes, but in the brawler mode you can play as anyone, like good guys and bad guys, and do everything.
And I see we've kind of got Wolverine in his 90s blue and yellow kind of outfits are part of the game with unlockables and things.
Yeah, we've got a whole range of different outfits. So like we've got a lot of things there for the Marvel fans. So we've got like outfits from the Ultimate series and like old school stuff like 2099 things. So we've got lots of stuff there for fans to check out and unlock. I'll show you a little bit of the brawler game maybe.
Okay, yeah, cool. I like that Doom in his
nightgown. Alright, so we've only got a limited number of the characters here. I'll pick a couple of guys.
Do you know sort of roughly how many we'll actually see in the end product, or is that just not settled?
Oh no, it's pretty much settled. Like, we're going to have about 20 characters.
Well, when's it scheduled to launch?
Late October. So like some of the characters like Iron Man can fly, and then with those things we kind of make use of the Wii remote, so tilting lets you go up and down.
Oh yeah, right.
You can kind of... Hulk's a bit violent. So there's a lot of combos and different strings of moves, so we kind of made it a pretty strong brawling game, and that kind of action fits in with the normal storyline game as well, so it's not just button mashing so much.
So they're like, yeah, special moves and things you can learn for all your different characters?
A lot of things. There's like there's hidden finishing moves as well, depending on the sequence of moves you do, and then when you flick the Wii remote at the right time, it will do some special endings. I'm getting pwned.
That's all for tonight's update. Thanks for stopping by. Join us weeknights around midnight Sydney time for Daily Geek News, and for more coverage, visit midnightupdate.com.